Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's lap guide tutorial. This is for IMSA week 6 at Road America, so let's have a look around. So, got a nice long run up to turn 1, but you want to be already looking and eyeing up these cones here on the outside. Nice little reference points for us again. So you got the first set here, 3 here and the 1 here. So your braking point will be at this point here, just around these 3 cones. In the racing, you probably can get away with lifting off here, rolling in, saving a bit of fuel, then braking. No problem at all, you don't really lose too much, but on raw lap time for qualifying or a hot lap, you'll be always aiming for these 3 cones here in front of us. Very key is you get to them, all you want to do is you want to actually build the braking, the pressure from here up to this last cone. Don't want to jump on the brakes at 80-90%, your max peak pressure straight away, and then come off it. Just because if you do that, you always just slow the car down a little bit too much, and then it forces you to be a bit greedy on the entry of turn 1. You get very aggressive on the curb. You can lose a lot of lap time just by over braking turn 1 and trying to power through the exit of T1. So what I would always try and do is brake around here, build the brake pressure up. You can see I built it up to about 80% before the last cone here on the outside. And you want to be eyeing up for your turning in point just around where this curb is here. You see there's the lighter patch of grass, or this curb here. This area here, as you can see, you go from here, you turn in, you have a nice arc into the corner. You're not too early onto the curb, gives you the maximum rotation, job's done. But from here, turn in, down 1 gear to 4th. Depending on the cars, some cars, I think that the Audi for instance, you can get away with using 3rd here. The Ferrari, you could go down 1 more gear. The Mustang, you could run 4th, same as the Mercedes, which is quite nice. So you got to remember, you're going to have a bit lower RPM, so you just got to be a bit careful on the exit, but it's very key that you roll enough speed in to make it work. Key thing is you trail brake it all the way in, and if I go to far chase, you're actually aiming for this part of the curb here. If you get on this curb here, you run the risk of the car actually going on the curb and falling off here when you understeer wide on the outside. Normally if you're getting the off track out here, it's because you've got on the curb a little bit too early, tried to power through, use the car gets on the curb, rotates. If you're getting the off track out here, it's normally because you've got on the curb a little bit too early and you just pushed wide on the exit. Pretty simple and self-explanatory. But it's very key, trail brake it all the way in, onto the curb. If I go chase now, as you can see, if I go far chase, you see even better. You see from here, we've missed this part of it, we've actually aimed for the middle. Our wheels are just about touching the dirt on the top of the curb. And at this point here, you see I'm already back on the power. And what you want to do from this point is just build the power in, then 100%. You want to be 100% once this actual curb is not visible for you. So hold it. Now it's not visible, 100%. And with that, you should be able to run it all the way out to here, without having to put extra stress on the front tyres. If you're having to put an extra 5-10 degree steering lock in here to try and avoid the off track on the outside, yes, you get away with it on a hot lap, but if you do that over racing, especially this week with it being so hot, you'll just kill the front tyres. And it's very, very crucial this week to keep the front tyres alive. Run it all the way out, go chase again, you see. You can get away with dipping a wheel ever so slightly here, but I wouldn't really risk it because you can get the off track pretty easily in turn 1, especially on a hot lap. You don't really gain anything by being out here to here. Short run down to turn 3 or turn 2, whatever you want to call it. Again, lucky enough you've got the 3, 2 and 1 boards on the outside. You actually, if I go back a little bit, you see this little white line here. There's another one that appears just around here around the 2 board. So this is what you'll be eyeing up. As you can see, just go back a little bit. Here, this is your braking point. You'll be trail brake it all the way in. Pretty aggressive on the braking actually here because we had a tailwind into this corner this week, so we had to go quite aggressive in, get the car a little bit stopped a bit more to get the rotation. But the key thing is, very aggressive on the brake, nice straight line. Keep it a nice straight line, and you're turning in once this wall, you're alongside the end of this wall here on the outside. Or as a reference, you want to go to the corner a little bit earlier, kind of turn in towards the end of this, the grey gravel part here. Trail brake it in, down to 3rd. Nice and smooth progression coming off the brakes. Nothing too drastic. Again, if you're very aggressive on and off the brakes with the transitions, the car will want to over rotate and want to spin. Especially this week with the aero we're having to run, it's very easy for the car to over rotate on entries. So you just got to be a bit wary of that with your braking this week. Very important here though. You don't want to get on the curb at this, similar to turn 1 actually. Last thing you want to do is get on the curb at this point here, because you can see if you follow this, you're out here. You want to be aiming for the second part of the curb here, As you can see, when you get on the curb here, it'll fall all the way around. Very easy for you to get the grip then. From here, on the power, you see we're very aggressive. At this point, you're on the second part of the curb, as I just said. Now you're on the power, again, 80%, 75% initial hit. You can hold it there. And then 100% as soon as you get the steering lock off. So now you get the steering lock off, 100%, run it all the way out. The car will tend to break away here on the exit. It's kind of a pattern in most of the cars this week with wind. Just be a bit careful about it, because it's very easy for it to just spit the car a little bit too wide and you get the off track. But use all the road. Nice long run then up to the next main braking zone. Try and just follow keep it nice in the middle, over to the right hand side. But you want to be actually setting this whole thing up. So, pausing here for the next corner. You're aiming to be braking in a nice straight line, so you can see from this point here, you're braking in a straight line, you actually end up out here, which is absolutely fine. You've got the 3, 2 and 1 boards. In the racing, you probably lift off around here if you've got cars in front of you. Hot lap just around the 2 board. You want to be braking actually and getting your main braking in just before this gravel ends and before the tarmac begins here on the outside. Very aggressive on the brakes into it, so as I was saying, just pull the 2 board. Very aggressive. Initially, you want to get to about 80-90% and then build up to 100. That way, when you get into the maximum braking of the ABS, it won't affect you too much. If you get on the 100% brake like now, 1, you'll stop the car too much, similar to turn 1. 2, it'll cook the front a little bit too much, too early into the corner, so then you never really get the rotation which you need to get to the apex here. But from here, trail brake, nice and aggressive on the brakes on the way in. Let the car naturally run out wide here, down to 3rd, and you want to be just have your left wheels on the white line here. Any more than this, you do risk of getting this crappy slowdown here on the outside, so just be a little bit wary of that. But as you briefly saw, you're turning in actually here. So you have a line here changes. From here, this is your nice turning in point. Very crucial here, as I mentioned with the trail braking. It's been very smooth with the trail braking as you're on your slow release. Up on the inside curb here. Dip your wheel on the curb. As soon as you get your wheel on the curb, be very aggressive initial hit power again, same as turn 2. Hold it about 70% while you got the steering lock on. Then once you're crossing over to runoff and you're getting the steering lock off, at that point you want to then commit to the power. If you get on the power a little bit too early, or if you're understeering wide here on the outside in the gravel overlap, or you're getting massive snaps on the exit, it's just you've simply gone the power too early. You've got to be very, very almost calculated here. If you go on the power too early, you get a lot of snaps, especially because it's uphill. Any sort of punishment you get here, you never really gain it back in this next sector. You've got to have a nice clean exit here. On the outside, up the hill. Tricky braking zone from the bridge. What I would always recommend is brake a little bit softer initially and then brake a bit heavier once you're over the crest. If you brake a little bit too early and too aggressive here, you'll stop the car too much. It makes it then the midpoint of the entry to the corner really awkward because you've got to then get on the power. You've got to try and carry more speed mid-corner, which then you run the risk of messing up on the exits. So you see, build the brake pressure up, hold it, and then come off it. No major snapping of the brakes, no 60-70% hits, just slowly build up to about 50, just over 50%. Over the crest, early turning, very key, you get your wheels up on the curb. Once you're on the curb, you see you're trying to balance the power, balance it. Again towards the middle of the corner here, not even 100%, you're just waiting, and then 100% just before you get to the runoff. This corner is so easy to get a huge snap of oversteer here, as you see when you come off the lock now, when you come off the curb up to the runoff on the outside. Just be very careful, just be very smooth with the input on the exit. Any sort of snaps here, you lose a little bit of time here, but also when it makes the car a little bit loose into the next, into the kink, as I'd say. So you've got to be nice and smooth on the exit, but it's very key on this corner here, if I go chase, you're using all the inside curb as possible. You just trail it all the way around. As you come off it, you build the throttle in slowly, and you want to be at 100% before the crossover line. Run it all the way out, into a kink. Pretty easy in this car. Just you make sure you aim for the middle of the corner, fully over the inside here. You can see, fully cut over this, no problem. Just be a bit wary here on the outside, where this line is here is actually like a nasty bump. If you hit this bump, you lose so much time down the hill, so just be a bit wary of that. Next braking zone, again looking up, we've got the 1, 2 and 3 boards here on the outside. You're going to be braking a little bit earlier than you think into here, so just before the 2 board, so just after the 3, before the 2, around this area here. Little tip I always would say, try and, you can kind of see like this tram line, there's a line here and a line here. You're going to brake around this, like in this area. If you're up against a white line, there's a huge bump just before this curb, somewhere to like actually exit the kink. And what happens when you hit that bump, the car literally goes right, left on the way in, and you lose so much time, the car slides around, you have no grip because of it, and you can lose like half a tenth for free on entry. So just bring the car a little bit away from the white line. If I like go to chase, you'll see I'm not near the white line, I'm a little bit away from the white line, following this like tram line here, you can kind of see. Very key going to here. Heavy on the brakes. You see I'm trying to bring the car back over to the right now once I'm past the main braking. Trying to get to this white line here. Once you hit this white line, slowly release off the brakes. But it's very crucial you're off the brake completely just before you get to onto the curb. My left wheels are now on the curb, I'm fully off the brakes. And then as you get into the corner, you're going to be cutting over the grass here on the inside. And what you'll do is you'll build the power in slowly and progressively over the corner. So at this point now, we're mid-corner, going over the bump, like over the crest. At this point, 70% throttle. As soon as you come off it, you can build it in 100% and run it out wide. If you're missing this like whole curb here, you run the risk of the car just understeering quite a lot on the exit here. I mean, you just have to wait so long on power on the exit. And if you're like bouncing off this curb out into like the dirt and the gravel on the outside, it's because you've just not cut enough initially on the entry and you've gone in too fast. You've got to slow the car down a little bit more when you think into it to get a nice smooth run over the curb, over the cut, nice progression on the throttle, no real movement on the exit, and then actually if you go here, you're not running the risk of like going fully out here where all the dirt is. Also there's a really awful off track here as well, so you're avoiding that at the same time. Into the carousel. Pretty tricky corner. So normally I drive in quite aggressive on the way in. You can kind of see like the grass coming away from the track here, so you can see a bit of tarmac. You're driving in deep into this part here. Very close to the white line here. You don't want to like fully drift into the middle of the track then V it off, because especially this week with the wind, if you went too far out here, you never really got back to the apex of the exit here. So it's very key, you want to keep it in the middle of the track. You see I'm just fully rolling at this point. Mid corner, now start bringing the power back in. Feed it in. Once you get to where this Armco barrier here is, or where the dirt here in front of us, like this part here starts to appear, you're going to be 100% power around this point here. So just past the Armco, where the dirt shows. With that, it just brings the car naturally back over to the inside. We've never really gone past the same amount, like the steering lock either. We've not cranked the steering lock in to get the car to rotate. Very key. Be nice and smooth. No real like overturning. And even from here, be nice and close to the curb. Let's let the car run out naturally. If you're here, you've gotten power too early. You've forced the car to understeer. Also, if you force the car to understeer and you're out here every lap, you're going to destroy the front. This corner is an absolute tyre killer, especially this week with it being quite hot. Got to keep that in mind. You're not going to lose much by just waiting a little bit here. Just wait, keep it nice and tight, nice and clean. Use all the road on the outside. Up to the kink, use all the road on the entry. Nice and smooth. The Mustang, I will give a little advice, can be very, very loose here in the first 2 or 3 laps. Unfortunately, just how the car was this week we were setting up. So just be nice and smooth here, very easy for the car to snap. Rev it out, 6th gear. Up to, I think it's Canada corner. With Canada with this season, you can be quite aggressive on the way in. So you've got the 4 and the 3 board. So as soon as you get the lock off and you get the car in a straight line, so now, just for the 3 board, very aggressive on the brake, down to 3rd, turn in just after the 1 board, aiming to get up on this curb, but not too early. If you get on the curb around here, you will run out wide on the exit every time. You want to be trying to get to the curb. You see where the grass is here, and it goes like the gravel? You're aiming for this part of the curb here. Be fully over it. If I go to chase now. You want to be fully over this. I miss it a little bit on this lap. You can see I've got a bit too much steering lock on here. Normally, you want to be like fully up on this curb. But straight away, you're back on the power because uphill. You want to maximise the exit here. On the power, 75%, hold it. Then 100%, drive it all the way out to the runoff, to the exit of the runoff. See, we're very, very close here to the gravel. In the race, I can imagine this here will get tighter and tighter on the exit with the amount of gravel and dirt being thrown on for people going off. So you will lose a bit of grip out here towards the end of the race. So just be a bit wary of that. Also, if you're getting the off track here, normally if you've driven it in too deep, you've gone out too wide, and you can never get the car back in time. Then to the last two corners, up on the outside curb. What I want to do is, I always get up on this curb as soon as you turn in, so like once this curb disappears, lift, just like a slow bleed, like 5-10% off, hold that all the way through the corner as you go over the crest, very, very tight to the inside curb. Then once I'm over the crest, 100% power, I can run it out wide. You can do this flat out. It's very, very awkward though, because if you just slightly miss the entry, you run out so far wide and you get so loose on the exit because of it. So just practice it. You can get away with it. On this lap, I just did a little lift because I knew straight away like the lap was good enough at this point, so I didn't want to throw it away. Probably the same for you guys in qualifying. If you're on a very good lap, there is no need to risk 2 or 3 hundredths through here. Run it all the way out wide, and straight away for the final corner. It's quite a awkward corner, but lucky enough, you've got quite a nice little reference. You see here, like the track actually changes tarmac colour at this point here. So you'll be driving into this, as soon as you hit this tarmac line, brake, pretty mediocre braking, like 50-60%. You're going to try and brake in a nice straight line. You're aiming to actually get your wheels right out here to the outside. Downshift, you'll be pulling just as you get to this outside curb. So now, then from here you can start tipping it into the final corner. Trail brake it in, but it's very key again, similar to the turn 2. You want to be on the power once you get to the curb. Hold it up over the curb and build it in, then you want to 100% on the exit. Here I just went a little bit wide. I dipped a wheel at this point here and I lost like a decent amount of time to the line. This should have been like a high 0.5 lap time, which would have been a very good lap for this week. So it's very easy to show. Like if you dip a wheel out here, you lose so much time to the line. So just be very, very wary of that. If you're out here in the gravel every lap, it's because you've got the power a little bit too early. See here, I jump on it and then get off it, then back on it. You've got to be just committed to one or the other. So I should like, wait, now 100%. That way it gives you a nice clean run to the line. I think I lost like 300 to the line, I think, from that. So it wasn't too crazy, but it can, obviously, you can fully mess it up and lose even more time. And with that, that is a lap for this week at Road America.